And we're back in the studio like we never left. Welcome to the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your hopefully happy hump day here with me in New York. But once again, we're going to skip past all that promotional jazz and get right to the guts of the episode. Today marks the 78th birthday of seven-time IFBB Mr. Olympia, one-term governor. Was it one term? 8 years, governor of California, and the biggest movie star in the world, box office draw number one for more than a decade, Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I have spoken so much about Arnold Schwarzenegger's life and career that, talk? What we got to talk about? We're not going to talk about Arnold's life and career because I have done that repeatedly. I am going to discuss an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, which is, if we're being honest, not one of his best. It's like a Sylvester Stallone guilty pleasure. It's really the only guilty pleasure movie that Arnold ever made. Most of his other films, like Junior, isn't even a guilty pleasure. It's just not good. But most of his other films are worthwhile, and I can point to things and elements that make it, well, no, this is actually a pretty good movie. This is, like Commando is kind of trash, but there's a little bit of a deeper meaning to Commando, for example, than would seem to be apparent if you just watch it and, see John Matrix, great name. I eat Green Berets for breakfast and just, fucking shit up. But there's more going on there. But a film that I have not talked about, which we're going to do a kind of dual celebration, if it's really a celebration, which it isn't, but instead of doing a typical birthday type of retrospective episode, I'm going to talk about Arnold's 1999 collaboration with terrific filmmaker Peter Hyams. He did Sudden Death. Speaking of guilty pleasure movies, Die Hard on a Die Hard in a Die Hard with a Die Hard in a sports arena as Powers Booth pretends to be a terrorist taking over for some kind of cause when in fact he just wants to steal $500 million. Because as he says, why are you asking for so much? What do you expect in this economy? That's why he has to ask for $500 million, because of the economy. But Peter Hyams also did the sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey called 2010. He also did a very weird sci-fi western with Sir Sean Connery called Outland, and he did a fantastic underseen, underrated horror film. It was his previous movie before End of Days with the late Tom Sizemore, The Relic. But End of Days, truth be told, is not a very good movie. And if we look at Arnold in the decade of the 90s, he had a phenomenal decade. It's not on the level of Harrison Ford in the 80s. I think that Harrison in the 80s, that's the greatest decade that any actor ever had. I dare anybody to find a better decade for somebody than Harrison in the 80s. But Arnold in the 90s, he had a couple of misses. But the movies he did that worked were stupendous. He had Total Recall, summer 1990. Not just a huge box office hit, but a phenomenal film. And there are those that would argue that's the best film in Arnold Schwarzenegger's career. I don't agree, but it's in his top three. I'll say that. Then he did Kindergarten Cop, not that good, but a ton of fun and a huge hit. Followed with Terminator 2, one of the biggest hits in the history of cinema up to that point in time, and a fantastic film which should have won Oscars. It won a couple of technical awards, but James Cameron not getting a Best Director nomination? I mean, the MPAA, give us a fucking break, right? Then Arnold did Last Action Hero, a movie which seems a lot better now than when it was released. I think it's almost a masterpiece. It's brilliant. It was misjudged, didn't do as well at the box office as it should have, so Arnold needed to make a comeback, which he did with, again, working with James Cameron for the third time, the fantastic action thriller comedy remake of a French film called La Totale, True Lies. And then he did Eraser, which is the sort of last big hit of his movie star number one proper. And it's not great. It's pretty good. It's not great. It's like a 3 stars out of 4. And then he did Jingle All the Way, a movie which I think is, I mean, I saw that in theaters. I don't think that film is good at all, but it's a cult film. There are a lot of Gen Xers that rank it among their favorite holiday movies, and it is funny to see Arnold in a comedy that's actually comedic, unlike, I forgot, in the fall of 94, Junior, another Ivan Reitman film. Not good. Not good. I love Arnold. I love Danny DeVito, and Emma Thompson could do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. And that movie just doesn't ignite. It should. The pieces are in place. Frank Langella again. It just doesn't ignite. So after Jingle All the Way, Arnold had some health issues. He had a heart valve problem, took a little time off, and he came back in 99, towards the end of the year, with End of Days. And it played into the kind of creeping dread and paranoia. Now, when I say we, I mean society at large. Like, we use the word they and we. In this instance, we were told by they. The Department of They told us there might be some catastrophic meltdowns in the financial markets and elsewhere because when they, I guess, started programming computer systems, full stack developers, front stack developers, I don't even understand this shit. I'm not a coder. But there was an idea that there might be a meltdown when 1999 turned to 2000. And then you get into all kinds of people were panicking at the time, losing our shit. I didn't think that anything terrible was going to happen, but I knew people that were, get all of your money out of the banks, translate everything to cash. Bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, take your $2,000, make sure it's in cash. Come on, give me a break. But End of Days gets into the idea of the turn of the millennium being a big deal in the world of the film, literally, spiritually, symbolically, all of these kinds of things. And End of Days was, if we just go dollar for dollar, it was a box office hit. But similar to Arnold's buddy, former frenemy and now friend Sylvester Stallone, this movie played a lot better overseas. And that's not something I would have seen coming. It made $65 million in the United States, but the total box office cum was over $210. And that means that it cleaned up in Europe. So for whatever reason, European audiences were more interested in the kind of blend of action and horror that this film puts forth. Now, I did not see, I don't think I saw it. No, I would remember this. I didn't see End of Days in theaters. Arnold Schwarzenegger movies that I have seen in theaters. Man, it's embarrassing. I haven't seen as many as I should. Terminator 2, Last Action Hero, True Lies, Eraser, Jingle All the Way. Could that be it? Man, that is pathetic, as my father would say. That is pathetic. He liked the word pathetic. He wouldn't have said it in this context about his son, but he liked the word pathetic. But I didn't see End of Days in theaters. The reviews were just too lousy for me to contemplate. And the film sits at a stunningly low 11%. Listen, I got to tell you, this is not a great film, but it is super entertaining. Arnold is committed to the bit. And they got an absolutely fantastic actor to play the villain, I guess Satan, in Gabriel Byrne. And Gabriel Byrne, we remember him in The Usual Suspects. Spoiler alert, I kept thinking that he was going to be Kaiser Soze. I'm sorry, in the immortal words of Gilbert Gottfried, oh, I spoiled the movie for you. Gabriel Byrne is fantastic in this film. Kevin Pollak is great. Miriam Margolyes is great. CCH Pounder. The supporting cast, hell, Rod Steiger, for crying out loud. This film does a lot of stuff right. The technical specifications are up to par, better than par. The effects work is fantastic. And you can see there was probably a better movie that could have been made from Andrew Marlowe's screenplay. They just didn't quite find it. There was more there, is what I'm trying to say. So basically, Arnold plays an alcoholic, possibly suicidal ex-cop who now makes a living in security. But he doesn't have anybody to take care of except himself because his wife and daughter were brutally murdered in basically a setup. They were assassinated because Arnold's character of Jericho Kane had testified against fellow cops. And again, not making any judgment, but at least in theory, if you go Frank Serpico, you might have some problems. And we even talked about a few weeks ago with Midnight Run, the issue with Robert De Niro's character of Jack Walsh, a good, morally upstanding cop, won't go on the payroll, refuses to turn a blind eye to corruption, and so he gets run out of town. But he was lucky because Arnold's character of Jericho Kane, he wasn't even asked to leave town. He wasn't even asked, just keep your mouth shut. He did it, and they killed his wife and his kid. So he is alcoholic, borderline alcoholic and potentially suicidal as we start the story, and he's hanging on by a thread. And he still looks incredible, by the way, in the world of this film. He is jacked. He's not as Diesel as, I mean, if you want to get technical, this is the kind of slimmest that he's looked in any film of the decade, except maybe Junior, but that's because his character, spoiler alert, becomes pregnant. But he looks phenomenal. And there are a couple of nods to his bodybuilding career and to his fitness, his lifelong fitness, his affinity for fitness. The fact that he was the chairman of the President's Council for Physical Fitness under President George H.W. Bush. Like, he didn't just live it, he tried, and to this day, he's still, with the Schwarzenegger Pump Club, he's still trying to spread the gospel of fitness to as many people as he can. Like, we could take issue with any number of things in his life, but he's the real deal when it comes to trying to teach people that making fitness a priority is a good thing. That's something that very few people will take issue with. I'm sure you could find a couple of cranks. No, it's better if you don't work out. Okay. But in general, it's a good thing. And everybody will, 99.9% of people will agree that fitness is important in some capacity in the lives of most people. So there's a moment early in the film where Kevin Pollak, who plays Bobby Chicago, great name, his partner in this security outfit, they're supposed to be watching some financier, that's the Gabriel Byrne character, before and after, played by Gabriel Byrne before and after he, I guess, turns into Satan or Satan takes him over. It's a little bit of a Meet Joe Black from the previous year kind of angle. So Kevin Pollak goes to Arnold's apartment. It's really not in good shape. He's working, he's drinking, he's feeling sorry for himself, he's working, he's drinking, feeling sorry for himself, lather, rinse, repeat. So character of Chicago, Kevin Pollak's character shows up, and he's trying to get his guy. We got to go. We have this man coming in, and we're going to get paid $10,000, whatever he tells him. So Arnold tries to get himself moving, and he decides he's going to make what we think is going to be a protein shake, similar to what he consumes very early in Total Recall, right before he starts telling his wife, who's not really his wife, Sharon Stone's character of Laurie, starts telling her, honey, let's do it. Do what? Move to Mars. Let's move to Mars. Okay, but in here, looks like he's getting ready to make himself what we think is going to be a protein shake. But instead, he puts leftover Chinese food, what looks like a little milk, maybe some chocolate syrup, and some hard liquor. And as Arnold is getting this together and he's kind of stumbling around, presumably with a splitting headache, the looks on Kevin Pollak's face are worth the price of admission. It's just gold. Because remember, Kevin Pollak, maybe you didn't know this, he was a stand-up comic before he became an actor. And he's had movies where he played pretty straightforward dramatic roles, such as the film Deterrence from the early 2000s, where he, believe it or not, plays the President of the United States who's trapped in a diner during a snowstorm in Colorado. It's actually a pretty good movie. But his reactions to what Arnold is doing, making himself what we think is going to be a protein shake, it's just gold. And we start laughing, even though we shouldn't be laughing at Arnold's character. So he puts all of this, like Hulk Hogan, all this crap. He puts all this crap in his kitchen into the blender, and he pushes frappe, as fellow comic and the late comedian Richard Jeni would say. He presses frappe, and out comes this disgusting mass of Chinese food and milk and chocolate syrup and vodka, and I don't even know what else he puts in there. And Arnold pours it into a glass, and just before he's ready to take a swig, he looks to his friend, and Kevin Pollak is like, fuck you, what are you kidding? But Arnold, as only he can, by way of pointing out that, well, you should have some of this because breakfast is what? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, so of course he has to have his rocket fuel or whatever it is. So this film has elements of a lot of other better movies, and that is a legitimate problem. You can see what they were going for, but rather than really try to do something different and just echo The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby, films of that in that ballpark, it just doesn't go far enough. It doesn't do enough with the concept. So, for example, remember in The Exorcist that Regan McNeil gets possessed, literally gets possessed by Pazuzu. It's like an offshoot of Beelzebub or the devil or Satan. We don't know how many different forms that Satan can take. So there's elements of that from The Exorcist, but it's kind of closer to Rosemary's Baby. Satan is his father, not Guy. He rose from hell to begat a son of mortal woman. Hail Satan. It's closer to Rosemary's Baby. So another actress in this movie, Robin Tunney, is somebody who looked like she was also, I mean, I bring this up a lot, but it seemed like she was going to have a bigger career than she did. She won a Best Actress award. I don't know if it was the Independent Spirit Awards, but it was a big independent film award. She won a Best Actress for a film called Niagara, Niagara, where there were people saying it was like one of the greatest performances they had ever seen. And so she went from that and got this role. And there was some talk when this film was in the planning stages. I don't know that Peter Hyams was necessarily the original filmmaker. I feel like James Cameron may have circled the project because at a certain point, there was talk that Kate Winslet might get cast in the role, which ended up going to Robin Tunney. Given what the film turned out to be, I'm glad that Kate Winslet said, no, thank you, I'm all set here. Because, I mean, I hate to say it, but Kate Winslet to me is, she's almost too good for this material, if I'm allowed to say that. But Arnold's character of Jericho Kane, and by the way, do we really think his initials being JC are a coincidence? My initials are JC. That is a coincidence. My parents weren't like, oh, we're going to use a J for... No, that didn't happen. But Jericho Kane, pray to God, is there a God? Is there a devil? Again, not an accident, doesn't happen in a vacuum. But in the world of this film, Robin Tunney's character of Christine York is somehow, she's been raised by Satan worshipers a la Rosemary's Baby. She's been raised by people who are sympathetic to Satan. And they are like prepping her. She lives very comfortably. She's loaded. They are prepping her for Satan, who has now taken the form of Gabriel Byrne, a very attractive, a kind of a sex symbol sort of an actor. Phenomenal. He was in Miller's Crossing at the beginning of the decade. The Irish Goodfellas, phenomenal movie from the Coen brothers. So she's being groomed, right? There's a great word. Everybody, she's literally being groomed to have the devil's baby, I think. And at the turn of the millennium, then we're all going to be, I guess, Satan worshipers or a pagan. I don't remember. They don't really explain exactly what's going to happen at what time at midnight. So Jericho Kane needs to intercept this Christine York before Satan can sink his claws into her. And one of the great over-actors, a ham, Oscar winner, but in his later years became more and more of an over-actor and a ham, Rod Steiger. Rod Steiger in this movie plays one of the people kind of connected to the Vatican. He would be like a Cardinal O'Connor back in the day, something like that. I think the character's name is it Novak? Whatever. So he's explaining to Arnold, you have to stop this from happening. Because the entire world, if Satan takes this woman as his bride, we are all going to die. The entire world is going to end. And Satan will have won. And that'll be the end of humanity or something like that. And Arnold thinks this is all bullshit. He's calling bullshit on this guy. He's calling bullshit on everything. What he knows is somebody's trying to hurt this woman and I got to try to stop it. So Rod Steiger keeps talking about world's going to end at midnight, world's going to end at midnight. And Arnold, with a straight face, goes, tell me something. So the world is going to end at midnight? Yeah, what do you think I've been telling you? Oh, so is this Eastern Standard Time? Let me tell you, when Arnold says the world's going to end at midnight, is this Eastern Standard Time? That's the biggest laugh in the movie. And I don't know that he was necessarily trying to be funny, but yeah, there's all this talk about midnight. Well, midnight where, asshole? What about the international dateline? So the world's going to end only in certain places at certain... It all gets so muddy and messy, and the film didn't have to do this. It didn't have to be as sloppy as it seems. So Arnold finds the girl, and tries to protect her. But the way that Gabriel Byrne plays Satan, he's fine. But the Satan of this movie, there's no logic to what he does. And I feel like the real Satan, if there is such a thing, at least the cinematic representations that I've mentioned, there is a through line, and we kind of buy into it. We understand what Pazuzu is going for in The Exorcist. We get why Roman Castevet and his gang of Satan worshiping, the coven in Rosemary's Baby, we get why they're doing what they're doing. It's the same idea, but it's executed better. And if they were going to ape those movies, they should have taken the good parts from them and tried to work it into this film, but they really didn't do that. And there was a lot of discussion about the ending of this film during filming. They shot a couple of different endings from what I understand, and one of the endings basically has Arnold going full-on Terminator on Satan, and let's just say using enough bombs, dynamite, and gunpowder to send the devil back to hell. But that's just ridiculous. It's kind of like in a Freddy Krueger movie or a Nightmare on Elm Street, or a Jason movie or Halloween. You can't kill an unkillable villain. Or as Stephen King famously said when he was asked for advice on how to do the last act of Needful Things, I'll give you some advice. Don't beat the devil. Don't beat the devil. Figure out a way to maybe temporarily not have the devil win, but don't beat the devil because you can't beat the devil. How can you? The devil's just going to cease to exist? If you believe in such things, it can't happen. So they ended up switching the ending around so that Jericho Kane has to rely more on, believe it or not, prayer and faith. And this is a man who does not have any faith. We don't know how religious he was, but his wife and child paying the ultimate price for not even his sins, for his good deed of calling bullshit and calling out corruption, which should not have been allowed to stand, and he got punished. And so he turned his back on believing that there was a higher power or somebody that he could pray to. But the crazy events of this story, the supernatural stuff that he has seen, has sort of reconvinced him that there is more. There is more than just our earthly possessions and our earthly pleasures and our earthly pain. And Gabriel Byrne has one really beautiful cinematic moment where he tries to reason with Jericho Kane. Just give up the girl, Mr. Kane. Give up the girl, and I can give them back to you. I can give them back to you, meaning we can rewind time. Or we can have it that you're actually at home and you stop the murders. What do you say? Why would anybody ever trust Satan? Which part of Satan's filmography would give us the idea, oh yeah, sure, he's on the level. So Jericho, as much as he would want to do this, fuck you, asshole. And Arnold has another great moment in this film where the devil threatens him and acts like, no big deal. I can just take you out whenever I want. And Arnold starts screaming, you're a fucking choir boy next to me. A fucking choir boy. Basically saying, I'm the Terminator, without saying it. I'm John Matrix. I am Dutch Schaefer, motherfucker. As Arnold says in Eraser, come and get me. Come and get me. And I actually prefer the ending that they went with. As much as it could be hokey, Arnold is asked to do more acting than he normally is. He goes into more, this is more of an emotional kind of film. It's strange for a horror movie that Arnold emotes as much as he does. And his performance is fine. There's just a lot of stuff in this film where you're scratching your head like, why did they go down this road? There was a better way to do this, to do this, to do this. But when it's over, it's entertaining from first frame to last. There's just a lot of stuff that I think should have been handled differently. Maybe the script just needed another couple of passes. Maybe someone else should have taken another crack. You don't know these things. But the studio would have signed up for the box office gross. If it was only the United States, the film would have been a disaster, or not a disaster, it would have been a box office bomb. But pulling over 200 million, or 212, I think was the exact tally, in 1999, it did pretty well. And it sold well in the somewhat early-ish days of DVD. It was a pretty big seller on DVD. But it's not, I don't even have it probably in my top 15. It's comparable to Raw Deal, which is not a great movie either, but the fact that Arnold in that film plays a character called Mark Kaminsky, I would say that in the history of cinema, Jack Palance in Tango and Cash playing Yves Perret, as Roger Ebert famously said, no one has ever looked less like an Yves Perret than Jack Palance. Nobody's ever looked less like a Mark Kaminsky than 38-year-old Arnold Schwarzenegger. But Raw Deal is a good movie. You could see what they're going for, and yeah, Arnold has the muscles, but there's a little bit more story, and the relationship with the Catherine Harold character is pretty good. I think that maybe this is 13th or 14th in Arnold's career. I think it's better than Junior. And it kills me to say that because I love Ivan Reitman, and I said, as I said, Danny and Emma Thompson and Frank Langella. That film should have been better. It just wasn't there. The script needed another pass. And that's the thing with End of Days. This, to me, is a 2.5 out of 4 kind of film. This is a movie that I would always recommend people to see. And honestly, most people I know who saw it, they would recommend it. They'd say there was some great action, some cool effects work. And to see the Terminator facing down against Satan, not bad. There is a certain catharsis to Arnold going out in the proverbial blaze of glory, the Terminator himself going out against Satan, as embodied by Gabriel Byrne. It was really great casting to get Gabriel Byrne in this film. And yeah, I talk about Arnold a lot because next to Clint Eastwood, he's my favorite person to ever work in the movie business. And there is so much of his life that is worth talking about. And it's worth discussing and remembering, and for some people to watch for the first time, a big action kind of film in his career that many people who probably not even seen. It's 26 years old now, and if you're going to give somebody an Arnold Schwarzenegger primer, oh, he's the little old guy from FUBAR, whatever, because he's 78 now. This is not one of the first 10 movies that the average Arnold Schwarzenegger fan will name. We will go over all of the ones that I've mentioned. Yeah, they might even say, Conan the Barbarian. I think Conan the Barbarian is a better film than End of Days. But 11% Rotten Tomatoes is cruel. It is not that bad. I mean, it's at least as good as Get Carter, the Stallone film from the following year, which I think is at 13%. I think that's also too low of a score. But I hope that Arnold Schwarzenegger, 78 today, the man who lived the life he imagined when he was a small boy growing up in Graz, Austria, in the shadow of the horror of World War II and an abusive father, he managed to escape all that and live the life that he imagined. And I hope that he has and has had a happy birthday. But End of Days, the newest entry in our continuing series of guilty pleasure movies, directed by Peter Hyams from a screenplay by Andrew Marlowe. Andrew Marlowe was the creator, I believe, of the TV series Castle with Nathan Fillion. Written by Andrew Marlowe and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Kevin Pollak, Gabriel Byrne, Robin Tunney, Miriam Margolyes, CCH Pounder, and a hammy, over-the-top, scenery-chewing Rod Steiger. This has been episode 588 of the Confessions of a Not-So-Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all so much for spending some of your happy hump day here with me in New York. And if you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, or the others in which we're hosted, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with a new episode real soon. Till then,